Okay, so we're going to do long layers. Side part. We're going to use these 5 techniques. Number 1, over direction. This is a huge thing. I want you guys to get into your over directed cutting. It creates all these things and sets your work apart. Over direction. Number 2, aeration. What is aeration? It's using long curved shears to point cut deep into the hair, parallel to the hair, and create soft, wispy tendrils in the hair rather than lines of demarcation. Number 3, slide cutting.
That's my favorite.
That creates short to long blends. Blend. If you don't know how to slide cut, you got to learn immediately, because your haircuts have to blend in. Let's say I want a back that's here, and I want a front that's here. You can't cut that with a straight line. You got to slide it. Okay. But the whole thing is, it's easy. Once you learn the mechanics of it and how your fingers all go together and the pressure on the blades and so forth, then you get that down, and then you're on your way. Okay, channel cutting. This is huge. Some people might call it slicing. I call it channeling. So the thought of this is how I do it. So if you want hair to move. Another word for move might be flow, right? Flow. Okay, so when you're dealing with water, and water and hair are sort of similar, they both flow, right? They kind of have a direction of their own. So when you're dealing with water, if you want to, let's say there's a river over there, and I need to hydrate this park over here. How do we get the water from that river over to the park? We do it in a channel, right? We dig a well, or we get a pipe, and we channel it. We move the water from one place to the next. Same thing applies to hair. How do I create movement in the hair and direction in the hair? In channels, and I'll share that with you, okay? Then, number 5 is blunt, because in this haircut, we're gonna have a few blunt areas in this haircut where we wanna create weight. Now, most people in the world, when they're cutting their long layers that they want soft, voluminous, flowing, movement, the first thing they do is they immediately stack the deck against them by doing this. They take the hair, they comb it straight down, and they cut it on an angle, okay? The only problem with this is, yes, the angle's correct, but the over direction isn't there. What? Huh?
Sorry, going up.
Yeah. What will the over direction do? The over direction creates an automatic bevel back to where it came from. So this, when you take hair, boom, down straight from the way gravity controls it, this is called on base, right? On base. And when you're cutting blunt, your bobs and your sassoon bobs and so forth, it's all on base, because you're trying to build up as much weight as you possibly can. But in this type of haircut, we don't want it. We want the opposite. We want movement. So we don't take it down straight. We do what's called over direct. If I want the hair to flow this way, I go opposite to the way I want it to end up. And so this is how I'm going to cut this hair. So that's going to be the line on the hair, okay? Over direct, where I want the max softness around the face is where I would direct the most. As I start coming by the face, see how the over direction is subsiding? See it? And then when I come down here, there is no over direction, because I want this hair to be heavy and blunt down here, not just a couple strands. Okay, so once I have the hair out here in my hands, again, going back to all these things that we're trying to achieve, I'm not going to grab a straight scissor like this and hold the hair like this and then cut it like this, because that's going to create a blunt line. I don't want blunt line. I don't want this kind of texture. And then I'm also not gonna take a straight shear, a shorter straight shear, and point cut, because the point cutting, you have to turn, right? When you turn to create the hair to come off, what you're creating is you're creating V's, like these notches. That's lines of demarcation. We don't want that. We want this. Follow me? That's the texture we're going for here. Okay? It's called invisible layers. I call it invisible layers. It's literally layering that you can't see the layers, but it's very layered, okay? Creates a lot of movement, a lot of softness. So instead of taking and cutting like this, which will create blunt, now that's just gonna hang heavy here. See, it's gonna be here, nothing's gonna happen, it's not gonna open up, you're gonna have no movement, no softness. But everybody does that when they're cutting their long layered haircuts, because this is the way they're taught. Okay, they're never taught to do this other stuff. And they're never taught to over direct. They're taught to comb it down and cut it. And then they wonder why everything's so blunt and not moving. Okay, take it away. The more I take it away from the base, the more movement I put in the hair. The farther I over direct it, the more movement it will have when it comes back. What is over direction? Over direction is nothing more than anything that is not on the base. When something's on the base, meaning straight down, that's called on base. If it's this much over directed, or we have it, we're not cutting it straight like this, we're not working into it with straight shears, because then we have to turn and then we get these V's. We're coming in with long curved shears, back, forth, and see, that's what's creating all of that. The shear's doing the work for us.